Now, Justice Madlanga is visiting the home of slain witness Marius Van der Merwe this afternoon. Van der Merwe was gunned down outside his home in Brakpan in Ekurhuleni on Friday. My colleague Iman Rappetti is there and joins us now live. Iman, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Just moments ago, the motorcade bearing the commissioners from the Madlanga Commission arrived here. I just do want to confirm that in speaking to the Commission spokesperson, it will just be the Commissioners Sesi Beloy, Advocate Sesi Beloy and Advocate Sandile Kumalo who will be visiting the home. And you can see them going towards the gate right now bearing flowers. Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga will not be here. Our understanding is that he is out of town at the moment. There's a police cordon that's been thrown around the street here, entering the home of Marius Van der Merwe. The commissioners you might have seen a few moments ago, just going to look at those floral tributes that have been left outside the home. Where you see those flowers, I'm not sure if you still have that in your view, is just half a meter away from where Marius Van der Merwe's family vehicle stopped. He was trying to open the gate when he sustained that attack and was killed and murdered right there. There have been a number of people who've come through to the family home, including the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola, earlier this week, and he has promised the family that investigations are underway. They've narrowed down some suspects. They've also managed to retrieve a vehicle believed to have been involved in the attack here at the family home last Friday night. The Commission, we understand, their intention is really just to pay their sympathies to Leanne McLean, who is Marius Van der Merwe's partner, his life partner, we understand. It was McLean's two children, aged 4 and 6, that were in the vehicle that night, Vio, when those shots rang out. And coverage from our other colleagues in the Daily Maverick, for example, shared a report from the neighbors who said that they just heard the children screaming uncontrollably in the moments during and after that attack. So this is where the commissioners have come to this afternoon. There are a number of developments, and we can discuss those, Vuyo, in terms of what AfriForum is doing, because the name Emmanuel Mbense is now inextricably linked to the name of Marius Van der Merwe. His family have approached AfriForum's private prosecutions unit for assistance in getting to accountability, possibly arrests and convictions around his death and murder. If we consider the testimony of Witness D, Marius Van der Merwe, in the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry earlier in November, which shared a grisly tale of his final moments, the final moments of which the family say they only heard of during his testimony in the commission. Vuyo?
Iman Rappetti, there at the home as the Madlanga commissioners visit the home of Marius Van der Merwe. Justice Madlanga himself not being there, of course. Apparently he is out of town. They're there to pay their respects and to comfort the family. Iman, I mean, we saw at the weekend members of certain foundations and other, local politicians as well visiting the home, trying to comfort the family. But of course, I mean, there's less of the traffic we saw at the weekend when you were also there on Saturday.
Well, yeah, the family has requested privacy. In fact, we had a conversation with the Commission support staff just asking that we respect the family's wishes for privacy, which is why we're standing much further back than we did last week. And you can only imagine the trauma that they have undergone. On Saturday, when we arrived, we took in some flowers for Leanne. We sat with her, held her hand, and it was really just a sad and tragic scene to behold. She was understandably shaken up, understandably not able to say much, and that wasn't our intention. It was really just to, just to see her and to obviously let her know our presence here, but understanding the deep trauma that the family is undergoing. There have been a number of developments out of the story, Vuyo, concerning developments, including what we're carrying in our headline news this afternoon from AfriForum because the family of that slain man, that Brakpan man, is demanding justice based on those revelations of torture and disposal in that dam at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. And I'm just going to remind our viewers of some of the things that were said in the statement that AfriForum had released, because they had painted this incredible picture of demanding accountability for years, since 2022 when this incident happened. They say after more than 3 years of pleading with the authorities for answers, this father of 5, who was allegedly tortured and murdered by law enforcement and private security officers before being dumped into that dam, had now had to take the step of approaching AfriForum's private prosecution unit directly. Because the first time, Vuyo, and this is astonishing, can you imagine hearing this for the first time at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, the details of Mbense's death, and the details were shared with the person we only knew back then as Witness D, who now we know is Marius Van der Merwe. He admitted to taking part in Mbense's torture and in that attempt to defeat the ends of justice. What the statement also says is, while we wait for IPID to complete those investigations, on the morning of Van der Merwe's scheduled testimony, one of their own investigators had warned the family that these details about how Emmanuel had died and his final moments would be revealed by their witness at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. This is now on the 15th of April, 2022 at his home. In a grisly turn, his body was discovered at the Duduza Dam, which is in Nigel, and police had retrieved his car keys and driver's license in his pocket. And by the way, what the statement also says, chillingly, Vuyo, is they've seen the death certificate, which records that the cause of death was blunt force trauma to his head. So a number of questions, including questions for Revo Spies, who is the retired Deputy EMPD Chief. AfriForum is asking, well, if he knew the testimony and knew what had happened, why were there no arrests made? And it also exposes to them how structures in the criminal justice system have failed to conduct objective criminal investigations and prosecutions. That, law enforcement has basically collapsed. So there are a number of considerations here. But to bring it back to the commissioners who are visiting Leanne McLean today, one of the important concerns they now have to seize themselves with is what next, where to from here in terms of the safety and security of the commission, its commissioners, but most importantly, those witnesses, some of whom are in hiding, are in safe houses, and some of whom, as we've seen with the price that Marius Van der Merwe has paid, whose lives are very definitely at risk.
It also brings into question the work, how IPID does its work, because the family says that, so many years, down the line, they haven't really been given satisfactory answers as to where the investigation is, even if it's just to say, we haven't forgotten about you, but we're still having challenges in our conducting the investigation.
Well, their work is certainly being put under scrutiny. We know that IPID has, for various reasons, had their work placed under scrutiny. But in this particular case, why has it taken 3 years? There were 8 individuals, I last counted, Vuyo, who were implicated on that night. Individuals from the SAPS, from the EMPD, and from private security companies who, according to Witness D. Marius Van der Merwe's testimony, had tubed the suspect. He was apparently had confessed to being involved in a particular robbery of a truck and so on at a warehouse here in Ekurhuleni, and they had traced him and they were questioning him about this particular incident. But again, after he was named, for example, even if we had to say at the 11th hour, now in November, when Witness D gave that testimony, what happened since then? Were they energized into escalating their investigations? Did that investigation gain momentum? We are not sure. And these are part of the questions that the AfriForum's private prosecution unit is looking at. One of the things they also raise, and we as reporters, we were there that day when Revo Spies was giving his testimony. This is the retired deputy chief of the EMPD. He testified that Van der Merwe was identified as a possible witness in terms of Section 204. Now, you know, Section 204 allows you to have criminal indemnity in exchange for really high-value information that will lead to successful arrests, prosecutions, and sentencing. But once he was identified, an explanation for the failure. This is Revo Spisa's failure to arrest the suspects and enroll the matter becomes even more pressing, says Nell. We've heard from other reports, Vuyo, from those who knew Marius Van der Merwe, close friends, who said that he had carried this burden on his chest for the years since that night in April 2022, and he had wanted to get it off his chest. And this is why he used the opportunity at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry to do exactly that. And one of the reasons that Marius Van der Merwe had given in his own words that the reason he hadn't come forward was because essentially he was fearing for his own life. There were other people there. He would certainly have ended up in that dam alongside Emmanuel Mbense, which is what prohibited him from coming forward. And I guess the burden weighed too heavily. The opportunity presented itself in the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, and we heard the details that we did. But there's a great deal of accountability that has to be sought after the culmination and the convergence of all of these events, Vuyo.
Yeah,
One wonders again what the commissioners might be saying to Leanne McLean as they've entered the house. They've been in there for a few minutes already. Not sure how long that visit's going to last, Vuyo.
Yeah, but I also think it underscores the fact that the IPID's backlog of around 15,000 cases is known, but I think it's situations like these that then remind us that behind those numbers lie scores of families who really want the truth about what may have happened to their loved ones. And the more they have to wait, the more they also begin to lose hope in our system, because 15,000 may sound like just a number, but when you think of the fact that each and every one of those cases holds the key to people not only knowing what would have or may have happened to their loved ones, but needing closure as well. And the more these cases remain unresolved, so many families are indeed affected.
And just to underscore that sentiment that you've just shared, if I go back to AfriForum's statement, here are the words of Nhlanhla. He only wanted to be identified as Nhlanhla. This is Emmanuel Mbense's brother. For a long time, we lived with unanswered questions, not knowing how he died, what transpired exactly. The truth only started to surface before the commission. And here's the part that just really goes to the heart of what you're saying, Vuyo, in terms of those 15,000 complaints and cases. The truth only started to surface before the commission. It forced us to relive the horror of his final moments in public, surrounded by strangers, receiving such devastating news at the same time as everybody else has been incredibly painful. It has stripped away any chance by us to prepare ourselves emotionally. We were re-traumatized again as those details unfolded. We're just keeping a watch on the house, but again, we are just reading that one example of unanswered questions, continued and compounded tragedy by the families over such a long period of time, really brings, it really does bring it home. And so, it's really important that this work, again, be energized through this tragedy that has happened, through the findings and recommendations of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. And let us not forget that the ad hoc committee is also doing its work. And there are a number of things that we're learning through the work of the ad hoc committee. So between all of them, if this isn't a moment of reckoning, a come to truth and accountability moment for the country and its entire law enforcement complex, then what will be if this is not that moment?
Hopefully someone is indeed not only listening, but work is being done to actually correct some of the wrongs. I don't think the police, or in fact those who have the power to do something about the things that have come through at both the ad hoc committee and the Madlanga Commission so far, I don't think those processes or certain things have to wait until final reports are submitted. Speaking of which, I mean, the commissioners who are right inside Marius Van der Merwe's house now have a responsibility. They've promised that on the next week, actually, they will be able to produce an interim report which will be handed over to President Cyril Ramaphosa. Hopefully, work will begin in earnest as soon as the president receives that report, and then that he begins to act on on some of the issues that the commissioners will have raised with him, and not wait till the end of the life of the commission. Hopefully, Iman, they will be able to say a thing or two when they come out of Marius Van der Merwe's home.
That is the expectation, but we haven't been given any guarantees that that will actually happen. We do know that there is a news conference scheduled for tomorrow. We will bring our viewers a confirmation of that, and that's when the Commission can speak in their own words, I guess, about multiple issues, not only about the experience that they had here if they don't speak to us today, but also just the broader issue around safety, around security, and how the Commission might continue to do its very, very important excavatory work in the months and weeks ahead, given these new security developments.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll be able to brief us on how far the Justice Department is with regard to upping the game a little when it comes to witness protection. I mean, there have been conversations between Justice Madlanga and, of course, the Minister of Justice and the officials of the department about what can be done to deal with that situation, because it has raised fears among potential witnesses as well that if there's no sufficient protection of witnesses, then they may decide to not come forward with their evidence, which will be helpful for the commission. But of course, it was said that Marius Van der Merwe rejected the kind of assistance that the Madlanga Commission was in fact prepared to give him. Perhaps understandably, because he has to be out there and look after his company. That matter is being discussed, we have been told.
Yeah, I mean, even as the managing director and founder of QRF Task Force, which offered a range of different services, including services in the illegal mining sector. And I was at Plastic Town on Saturday afternoon looking at that flattened area that Ekurhuleni, the city of Ekurhuleni, had flattened, where this Zama or illegal mining activity had been taking place. And we saw a couple of men emerge. They'd seen Marius, they said, later on I showed them a picture and they all confirmed that was him, the day of his killing in the afternoon between 11 and 12 o'clock. So his interests, his enforcement work was wide-ranging. The common suspicion is that this tragedy occurred because of his testimony at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Some experts have told us that also, even if a witness rejects security and protection, that the state still should have an obligation to provide that for them. And those are things we'll get clarity. I mean, all of this seems to be also in an experimental phase of how you deal with a situation quite like this one and the modalities that are inherent in it. The other issue, though, relates to his activities in illegal mining, and there's a bunch of other reporting by other colleagues who are putting together a very chilling picture of revelations that he was apparently planning to make around those involved in illegal mining and those who might have been high up in the commission of those crimes, the syndicates that we've been reporting about extensively. I'm going to leave it there for now, Vuyo. We'll keep our picture locked and trained on the home. We also want to be mindful of not exposing the number plates of the vehicles that are in front of us bearing those commissioners. We know that security concerns are heightened. The rain is threatening to come down as well. We hope the weather holds, but we'll keep our picture, and I'll hand it back to you for now until we hear from the commissioners and whether or not they will be talking to us after this visit.